Right now I'm going to talk about how to practice in PUBG and the best ways to practice in PUBG. Right here we're in the training range, which is a pretty new thing that PUBG made. And it's a pretty good tool. It's good for certain things, but it's not like amazing for everything. But the first thing is like a lot of people go in here just to like practice their sprays and just, get your recoil control down. Keep practicing controlling your recoil as best you can. There's a lot of people running around and shooting and stuff, so you could always like track them while they're running and, just trying to keep your crosshair on them as best you can. This is usually what I'll do before like a tournament or something, just to get warmed up as well, like, get the blood flowing and all that. So it's really useful here. One thing I like to do is I come over to these red and green targets, and I'll set up like over here near these tables, and you can just like try to click on all these little targets, practice your leans as well. It helps get your movements on point as well. This is what I like to do for my DMR practice. Trying all these different little angles, shooting things in between little cracks. Because in PUBG, there's so many different little angles that you have to keep leaning to get into and find these little openings on people. It's important to remember that when you're practicing here in the training mode, that your equipment is fully like kitted. So you might not have this exact setup in competitive, or like in any game, sorry. You might not have your compensators and your 6X. So maybe you might want to pick up like a different grip, or maybe like a flash hider, something a bit weaker, because it's gonna be unrealistic if you're always training with the best setup and you can't always get this in a game. It's good to sometimes train with a bit weaker equipment, because the recoil is obviously going to be like a lot more. So sometimes I'll put a flash hider on, or like a lightweight grip, or maybe like no tack stock, and then practice my sprays with that, because it's going to be a lot harder to control and it'll be more realistic. Because like you don't want to have your full setup and then you get in a real game and you're not going to find all this stuff, and you'll just like miss your whole spray, because your muscle memory is going to be to have a perfect control with all the attachments. So just keep that in mind when you're practicing. And another thing is, like, I would say maybe new players do this, but you want to like try to get the most optimal guns. Like there's usually like a meta in PUBG, and you're going to want to practice with like the best equipment. You might not know what that is, but like you should try to find out in different areas, or message people, or look at what like pros are doing and stuff, and figure out what the best equipment to use is, because you don't want to be using like mutants and like DPs and stuff where you're using like weaker things. So you want to practice with, like, I basically always try to get this setup here, mini M4, because it's like, in my opinion, one of the best setups, and always just practice with this stuff, because this is what I'm most likely gonna use in most of my games. It gets like my muscle memory up. Like if I'm always switching my guns to like mutant and DP and AK and barrels and stuff like this, then I'm going to have inconsistent sprays with my M4, because I'm going to be like my recoil is going to be different, so different on all these guns, that I'll forget, or I won't have the muscle memory to get like a really nice M4 spray. So that's why I suggest practicing with like the meta guns and guns that are really good, just to get your muscle memory up. The grenades as well, you could practice here, which is really important right now. Like the meta in PUBG with nades is huge. Like people are carrying, 9 nades or like 7 nades in games, and it's just they'll just red zone you like crazy. So like this range, you could try just throwing them into windows and stuff, getting like, you know, the right distances, the right angles to get them in buildings, and just keep practicing your nades because they're really important, especially like if you want to like improve your gameplay, you got to use grenades. Maybe some people don't use nades enough, but if you want to get a lot of kills and if you want to, you know, improve and get into competitive scene, then you're gonna want to be really good with grenades right now because they're really strong, and you can carry a lot of them and just spam at full teams. So this is a good little range to get them through the windows, get your like throwing right up there, and just, yeah, practicing your distances and all that. So another thing that people use to practice is a lot of people have been playing a lot of people play Kovaks now, which is a different game. It's like a gun simulator, just a training mode as well. And you just shoot targets like this, but there's like, you can customize it as much as you want. And it's a game that a lot of people use to get their flicks like on point and get their tracking on point. Like if you're trying to follow people running around, Kovaks is something that a lot of people have been using. And I started using it recently as well, and I kind of liked it. I've been training on it more, and I think it helps. Like it definitely gets you really warmed up. Being able to just like constantly train and constantly just shoot stuff is really nice, and you could do that in Kovaks. A lot of people also play like Counter-Strike and stuff. Like basically just any FPS game is gonna help you in PUBG as well, because you know it's similar in a lot of ways. Every FPS game. In PUBG, there's obviously bullet drop and everything, but practicing on any FPS game or any aim training game is going to help. One more point about training in PUBG is different maps. So usually, like if you're a beginner, like you're gonna probably play Sandhawk a lot because it's pretty fun. It's a smaller map, and it's like fast paced and fun. But if you're like trying to play competitive more, you're gonna want to practice more on like maps like Erangel and Miramar, because you're gonna get more like long range practice. Whereas I personally don't play Sandhawk a lot because it's super close range, and you're not getting like the best practice you can because you're not gonna have many long range shots that you would in like Miramar or Erangel. And it's really important to be able to shoot long range and not just like be really good at close range. Personally, like I would say you want to get a good mixture of the maps when you're just playing pubs, or maybe if you're playing Face It or anything like that. You want to make sure that you're playing like getting some Erangel in, some Miramar, so you can get just a mixture of like all different types of distances, angles, things like that. Because like for example in Miramar, you're gonna have more ridge shooting and like playing behind rocks and small cover and terrain pieces. Whereas like if you're on Sandhawk or Erangel, you're gonna be more in like urban, like buildings and stuff like that. So you wanna just be able to be good at everything. So you don't wanna just only play Sandhawk or only play like Erangel or only Vikendi. Make sure that you're being diverse and like training on every range and every map, because it's important to be good at all of them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope this video helps get your next chicken dinner, and I'll see you in the next video.